All right, folks, welcome in to Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends over at Superbook Sports. I'm your host, Ryan Blackburn at NBA Blackburn on Twitter. This is Weekends with Swipa, where we are chatting here. I've got my guy SwipaCam on the other side. Swipa, how you doing, my guy? Doing pretty good, I guess. We are vibing. We're having a good time. The Nuggets are 3-0. We get to talk about the best team in the world. It's a great day to talk about the best team in the world. It's a great day to be inside because it's cold outside here in Denver, Colorado. I'll ask you again, how you doing?
Bro, I'm living, man. You know, it's always good. I told folks Jokic going to be the best player in the world a couple years ago. I told people Jamal Murray going to be an all-star. I tried to tell folks the day that Peyton Watson was drafted, I see the vision. I see the Jaden McDaniels to Herb Jones. I said players with this kind of archetype, physical gift, and intelligence, they typically don't bottom out in the NBA. And you give him the most, the most intelligent team in the NBA, the most well-documented front office probably right now in the NBA. And respect to Sam Presti and their development staff. They've done a great job since the KD days, but they ain't got no ring to show for it. Calvin Booth got a ring, and Tim Connelly got a big part in that. So, man, I'm telling you right now, bro, I think the Nuggets are, again, this is not even about in my brain, they're even better than what I thought from everybody just lean in, guaranteed championship. This is more about, I think the Nuggets are showing that they're the level they can get to that I don't think anybody else can get to when they're actually riding like they should be.
It's been wild to see. It's been wild to think about. And it's been cool to talk about because you almost always see championship teams kind of get a little bit lax after they win. And this has been the exact opposite, I think. Denver in this game today goes out and they win 128-95. They absolutely throttled the OKC Thunder. And let me tell you, it just wasn't close. It wasn't ever close at any point. And there was never any question about who was going to win the game after about the first 6 minutes or so. It was kind of surprising to see Denver put their foot on the gas as much as they do, because I think this is a spot last year where they kind of they ease into it a little bit. They see how they're feeling. They're not necessarily as pedal to the metal. No, they went full throttle on this one and absolutely killed OKC. SGA, not a great night for SGA. Denver's perimeter defense, the vaunted perimeter defense of the Denver Nuggets, actually locks down and really shows up. We were looking at
tell them the truth. Yeah.
we were talking about the advanced numbers for Denver right before, and we hopped on NBA.com. Denver's got the second best offense, the seventh best defense, and the best net rating in the NBA so far this year. Obviously, it's small sample size. Obviously, there's a lot that can go into those layers, but Denver, when they've wanted to, has absolutely locked down, and it's been really cool to see Denver, even against a guy like SGA. He had nowhere to really go tonight.
Well, just to, because Ryan's going to be nice to you and, whatever. I'm just going to tell you what the numbers are. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's been averaging over 30, by the way, right? He's been averaging over 30 to start the year off. Just absolutely put the Cleveland Cavaliers in a box. And they had the number one regular season defense in the NBA last year. He had, in 28 minutes, 7 points, 7 assists, 4 rebounds, 19.7% true shooting, and a 12.5% field goal percentage. And he was a minus 22 in 28 minutes for a top 12 player, I believe, who Ryan Blackburn had ahead of Anthony Davis. And Anthony Davis even had a better game than SGA versus him. That's so interesting how that works.
You must be.
And so,
oh my God, we're turning this into an Anthony Davis thing? Good God. The same Anthony Davis that had 0 points in the second half of that game?
I like Anthony Davis. That's just me. But I think, bro, if you look at this team, man, sorry for a little delay. If you look at this team, man, and what they're doing right now, bro, KCP, Christian Braun, Michael Porter Jr., they're in another place right now. And again, we got to talk about Porter defense too, bro. I'm not gonna hold you, bro. He looks not just good. He looks really freaking good defensively to start the year.
There's been a lot of great moments, and he is not the mark that a lot of people thought that he would be. And a lot of people expected him to be after the first couple of years in the league. He has turned himself into a problem, a threat on the defensive end with the way that he can contest shots. There were a couple plays that I was questioning kind of the decision making that he had on the defensive end, but that just happens. Like it's just something that happens within the flow of the game for guys. And like Jokic has a lot of those plays, and Murray has some of those plays. Like it happens to everybody. And so Porter, for all of the flack that he used to get, like the dude averages 11.3 rebounds a game now, and that is a tremendous number. When you talk about adding value to a team, that's one way he can
Mhm.
do it. He can sell out on the glass and make a massive impact on there, and has done that so far in all 3 games.
By the way, OKC had a top 10 offensive defense from basically January on last year. The Nuggets had a 114 half court offensive rating today.
Wow.
114. That's insane. Like a good half court offensive rating is like a 102.
Yeah.
And then they held them to a 91 half court. And then in transition, the Nuggets averaged 130. They were 138.5 offensive rating in transition in the game, a 134.7 offensive rating. Now, typically, when you watch teams play, when you have that high of an offensive rating, you'll think the defensive rating will be very high as well, just because that means it's a high scoring, fast paced game. Okay. There were only 72 possessions today. So slower gameplay, 72 possessions, but 134 offensive, 107 defensive rating, Ryan. A 107 defensive rating today. And again, this is similar versus the Lakers that had 125 offensive rating and 107 defensive rating versus them. You're just seeing like there's like a pattern that's developing here. It's like we're going to get into an unstoppable offense. And even with our bench, which we'll talk about in a minute, even when they come into the game, they understand the culture, our identity, how we play, how we're connected. But defensively, everybody guards, locks in. And honestly, who's the weakest defender in the Denver Nuggets rotation right now, I would say, are probably Reggie Jackson and I would say Jamal Murray. But I would say not because they're negatives. I think Jamal is just he's a point guard. They typically don't lock in unless you're Marcus Smart or Drew Holiday or one of them. But he's
Sure.
still been like a slight positive. But for you to have your worst defender be like a 6'5" point guard and your backups point guard, and then everybody else has just been clamping up, man, it's really special.
KCP's been a monster on defense so far this year.
Feels
Aaron
like
Gordon's basically averaging 4 stocks a game so far this year. It has been tremendous to be able to watch this team lock in when they want to. And to your point about Murray, like he might be the weak link, but he had several possessions today where he just stood up SGA in the post. SGA tried to take advantage of him. 2 of 16 from the field, as you mentioned, and just not a locked in game from SGA. He was clearly bothered by something or other. But it's been great. And we should probably mention Murray and Jokic, obviously, from the offensive end. Jokic goes for 28 points on 12 of 16 from the field, 14 rebounds, 5 assists. What did you think of his matchup against Chet Holmgren today?
I think Jokic, by the way, Jokic shot 11 of 14 from two, 78% from inside the line today.
Pretty good.
And I think Chet's going to be a good player. I think Chet is, he's had a really good rookie season. He had a good numbers himself today. But, again, it's not even just the size. It's just the intelligence is not there. He doesn't know what he doesn't know, so he doesn't know positioning and all that stuff. So Jokic is master positioner. Every time Jokic wanted to get into an action, he did it. And it's not even just because of Chet's, he's petite, like in terms of like body wise, he's petite in NBA terms. But that's okay. Like you'll figure that stuff out. But it's not even like he was bullying him. It was just his angles he was attacking, how he was getting to him, swimming around him, or if they put Poku in the game, or even if they had one of the wings on him, then navigating some of the passing lanes. I mean, it was just really an all-around performance from Nikola Jokic, taking 28 points in 29.9 minutes with 14 rebounds to go to it, man. He was aggressive. He was attacking. He looked spectacular. And again, man, he's continuing to show that for the best player in the world, man, there's just everything is just different. Like he's just in a different class. I think honestly, Ryan, even in the game he struggled again versus Memphis, that we'll talk about later, he had a 66% true shooting. So like even then, it's like, and he was the plus 6'6" in that game. So yeah, it's just Jokic is just embodying something right now that we just honestly just quite literally haven't seen before.
It's been tremendous to watch, and he does deserve a ton of credit, and a ton of credit for bouncing back. I think from a focus and a proper aggressiveness perspective, that was pretty nice to see. Um, Jamal Murray tonight's not today, not necessarily his best game, but 19 points and 8 assists compared to 4 turnovers. 4 turnovers, pretty high for Jamal, and yet he still had a 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio, which is great. 9 of 14 from the field, only took 1 3, but made it. He, like Jokic, is getting whatever he wants right now. That's been my general impression of what the Nuggets starters are going through right now, where they are trying different things. And when Murray doesn't take a lot of threes, it's because he's operating inside the 2 point line or inside the 3 point line and being like getting to the spots on the floor wherever he wants to go. I've been very impressed by his playmaking, obviously, just as everybody else has, but it is nice to have two elite playmakers on the floor at once or one of them on the floor at all times.
And again, everybody like Jamal Murray is only averaging 21 and 6. And so some people might say, well, 3 games in, how good is that? Is that good enough? Yeah. 21 and 6 on 66.5% true shooting. 66.5. So just again, I said this on my episode earlier, Ryan, but for clarity, Joel Embiid averaged 33 on 65 true shooting. It's like these are like great numbers he's hitting. He's not going to sustain this efficiency more than likely. But what I did say was he gets to 24 and 7. But if he's able to stay right, if Jamal Murray is at 61 true shooting on 24 and 7 this year, that's all NBA numbers. So he's playing really well.
He and to your point, like he doesn't have to do all of the things like as a lead playmaking guard from the production standpoint on this team when they're
Right.
sharing the wealth, when they're doing all these things. Like we just had a game in the opener where KCP goes for 20 points on 8 of 12. For a
Yeah.
lot of teams, that doesn't really happen all the time with their fifth guy. And for Denver, like they're able to get that from a guy like KCP. And so somebody like Murray or Porter or Gordon at times will sacrifice because they turn good shots into great shots all the time. And I think Murray's really embodied that, especially like he hasn't gone for these massive point numbers so far this year. And that's been fine. That hasn't been a problem at all. So
Mm-hmm.
really good to see from Denver. But we should, do you want to talk about Porter first, or do you want to talk about Christian Brown and Peyton Watson?
No, definitely Porter. Porter did say to Katie Winsey that he has an ankle injury. We already knew that.
Mhm.
But he said he's had to change his game up a little bit. And again, that's fine. But here's the thing. Porter changing the game up is like, all right, I guess I'm just going to become apparently one of the 20 best wing defenders in the NBA. And then on the other side of that, I'm also going to be a hellacious rebounder. So whatever that means, right? So if you change your game and then that's what you become, that's fine. And he was 4 of 7 from 3 today. Porter was 4 of 7 from the 3-point line today. And then on top of that, he was 29 and 2. Another good playmaking series from him, like in terms of like things that he was able to put together. And he was a plus 12, but he was a plus 12. Everybody in the starting lineup was a plus 20 plus, but Porter was a plus 12 because he was staggering with the bench. But even today with the bench, he's been showing an ability to get to the rim, to finish. Again, man, he's showing so much maturity, and he's 25 years old. He's basically a man now. And like in terms of NBA terms, man, I just think he's just coming into himself more and more.
It's been great to see. And he's probably the one guy that you're looking at from that starting lineup perspective, wondering, okay, when are you going to come around? When are you going to look like yourself a little bit? How are you going to come off of that injury and get back to normal? He looks back to normal today. Like he just does. He's probably not jumping as high as you want him to. He's probably not moving laterally as well as you want him to, but he's also just gotten smarter. And
Mm-hmm.
he's playing the angles much in the way you're talking about Jokic. He's playing the angles so much better now than he was at the beginning of his career and just knows more about what he needs to know, kind of like the opposite and the process that Chet Holmgren's going through. So it's
Yeah.
been cool to see. And that's just a young, athletic, big dude figuring out how to play. And I love seeing that. And obviously, Nuggets fans all love seeing that too. So shout out to him. Um, but it's been great. And I love seeing what this Nuggets team is turning into. I didn't expect them to go 3-0. I didn't expect them to win this game. I thought that they would drop one of these games on the road. And I figured, hey, you might get a little bit of an emotional letdown, but the way that they kind of responded to adversity in Memphis and then put their foot on the gas in OKC, that's a mature team right there that knows what they need to do to win.
Well, if you listen to Locked On Nuggets, I said that they
I
were going to
don't. I'm
win.
sorry. Like I just I
Both, both, both of these games that they were going into the Memphis OKC, but just because I think situational again, Ryan, and I said this before the show a little bit. I truly do not think that the Nuggets at this point in time know how to turn off who they are. They're just not the same team. They're not the old team they used to be. The old team they used to be would they started 1-3 with 2 different losses to the Kings. That was the Facu Campazzo year he first got there. You know, you had the letdown games and all that stuff. But I just don't think that right now, coming off the finals run, I think they just are so full of confidence and assuredness of this is a part of their identity. I don't know if they know how to turn it off. Now, it's not doesn't mean they've not been sloppy. Jamal Murray said they're going to be sloppy at times. They've had plenty of sloppy moments. Remember, they were up 16 against the Lakers and let them back in the game.
Yeah.
They were up versus Memphis, 12 points, let them back in the game, went down the clutch. But here's the thing. If you get into a four-quarter situation with the Nuggets, if they have to keep a lead, they can keep a lead. And if they got to put you in a clutch situation and get a tough bucket, they'll go to multiple action. Or you want a split action with Murray, KCP, and Jokic. You want a horn set. You want a pick and roll. You want some kind of Spain. You want an Iverson cut, get Jokic isolated on the right wing somewhere, let him navigate the field, get a step back mid-range shot. He just has shown he can do it. So I don't know, man. They just look like a team that is just like one of those teams like generationally great that just kind of has it all. And they're just kind of beaming with confidence right now.
It's so fascinating. I did not expect that from this group. I thought that they would kind of ease into it a little bit more. I thought that they would take a little bit longer with their bench. We'll talk about the bench in the next segment. They deserve a bunch of time to kind of fawn over what happened in this game, but also what's happened through this first week, and just sort of really get to appreciate how things have gone so far. It's been awesome. It's been tremendous. But hey, when we come back, we're going to talk about first impressions of the rotation. We'll talk about Peyton Watson. We'll talk about Christian Braun. Those guys deserve a lot of credit. But first, everybody, as you know, this podcast is brought to you by our good friends over at Superbook Sports. Football season has been rolling on for weeks, but now we have hockey and basketball in the mix. So what are you waiting for? It is time to get away from the big boys and try your hand with the local book this fall. Superbook is the book next door with a dedicated team of the best odds makers in the Las Vegas business, making sure you get the best prices and parlays anywhere. And now Superbook will give you a major deal here as long as you sign up and wager on the same day. They'll give you a bonus of up to $250 when you use the promo code MILEHIGH. So make sure to bet with the best and use that promo code MILEHIGh this season with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. We'll be right back on Pickaxe and Roll. And we're back. Pickaxe and Roll. Ryan Blackburn here. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. We are on Weekends with Swipa with my guy, SwipaCam. Thank you so much for hopping on with me, Swipa. It's been tremendous doing these episodes with you, being able to see you out here in the Mile High City once again. We're trying to get you out here, my guy. We want to make this a full-time thing. This has been a tremendous thing, and I know that everybody, like, if you're listening on the Mile High Sports YouTube right now, give some love to Swipa and make sure that everybody knows how valued Swipa is on the MHS platform. So thank you so much, dude.
Yeah, for sure, bro.
Let's get into the rotation. Let's chat about the rotation here. First impressions from this week. I thought that Michael Malone did some great things. I thought that Michael Malone did some interesting things. And it's been very fascinating to see how the Nuggets have handled these first 3 games of the season. Basically going with a 9-man rotation for the most part, with Reggie Jackson as the 6th man, Christian Braun is the 7th, Peyton Watson is the 8th, and Zeke Naji is the 9th, staggering Jamal Murray, but also staggered Michael Porter Jr. today in what I thought was a very interesting rotation from Coach Malone. Julian Strother's gotten in a couple times. He's been the 10th man, I would say, and that's been basically the group. So this is my ability to kind of give you the floor here on whatever you want to talk about with the bench, whether it's from today or whether it's from this week.
Oh, man. Well, somebody just said in our Stecky said, peak the Bucks stat line right now. The Bucks are currently down at the half, 68-47 to the Atlanta Hawks. So, yeah, not super great. Going to sell my parlay. But anyway, so, yeah, I think this is This is a really, 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 really good time.
No, hey, here. Let me read off the stat line too for Damian Lillard. 17 points, minus 31, 0 points, 0 of 7, 0 of 4 from 3, 6 turnovers.
Yeah, man. But yeah, I think it's gonna be good, but it's a little rough, y'all. But look,
Just
check
it
this
takes
out.
some time to get to be Jokic and Murray, guys. Takes a little bit of
Right.
time.
So let me read this to you. I'm gonna read you what the net rating is for the main bench lineup. Okay, this is Reggie Jackson, Jamal Murray, Zeke Naji, Christian Brown, Peyton Watson. That bench unit, a 108.1 offensive rating. That's not good. That's way below. You don't love
Yeah.
that at all. But they have a 70.7 defensive rating, which is a plus 37. A 70.7 defensive rating. So when I tell you that they have managed to find a way to become one of the greatest defensive units of all time, apparently, they've done it. Now, obviously, very small sample size. But again, what did I always say? Length and versatility for the Denver Nuggets is more important than anything else. A 70.7 defensive rating, Ryan Blackburn. So when I say the bench is doing its job, the bench is playing spectacular as a unit. They're spectacular.
Bro. that is that is tremendous. That is that's disgusting. Um Look, that was going to be the identity of this group regardless, right? If you commit to Zeke Naji as the center, one of his biggest defining traits and his biggest defining skills in this league is his abilities to switch onto guards and wings and guard in isolation. And you want to be able to take advantage of that. And boy, have they taken advantage of that. Good God, man. What is that? You said plus 37 on the
Plus
net rating?
37. They're a plus 37. So again, 3 games, 21 minutes is a lot for a 5-man bench unit. They are a 108.1 offensive rating, a 70.7 defensive rating, a plus 37.4 net rating.
Ooh, okay. Wow. That's okay. That's not the number I expected to hear today, but thank you for that. I appreciate that. That's SwipaCam bringing the analytics into the conversation. And with a conversation with Ryan, he always brings the best numbers. Um, that's tremendous, dude. Uh,
What do you attribute that to when you think about what you've seen through 3 games? What do you attribute that to for the Nuggets?
I think it's very few shots at the rim. I think
Yep.
the most important thing that group has done is they shrink the floor and they switch everything. They make sure that if you're going to kill them, you're going to kill them with threes. You're not going to kill them at the rim. Peyton Watson flies in from the weak side. Christian Brown's got length and athleticism. Zeke Naji, when he rotates over and switches, it's been pretty clear. But then one on one, they'll do a pretty good job of keeping everybody in front. I
Hmm.
think the guy who probably does the worst job of that is Reggie, but honestly, I've been pleasantly surprised with the way that he's
Yeah, I
played
haven't
defense
noticed
so
a lot
far
of
too.
people beating
And
them.
that right there is the key. That, in my opinion, is the key. When you do not notice somebody on the defensive end, it's
Right.
usually a good thing. Like it just is because everybody's playing their role, they're executing the rotations, and then the opposing team, okay, you get a tough shot or you get a runner down the lane, and it's you have to do a running bank shot or a fadeaway, and you settle for a mid-range jumper, and it's just like, okay, that's fine, but you could definitely do better if you're the opposing team. I think the Nuggets have done a great job of walling off the paint, forcing guys away from the rim, and switching everything and guarding in isolation. That's tremendous. And look, that's probably our best springboard opportunity to talk about Christian Brown and Peyton Watson from today specifically.
Yeah.
I had been relatively critical of Christian Brown because first 2 games back, so you give guys a pass for not
Right.
necessarily knowing how to fit into that. But
Right.
that was one thing that I was watching today. Christian brought in a 39.2 true shooting percentage into the game today. And then he
Hmm.
played way better.
Hmm.
13.7 rebounds, 7 assists, was dynamic on both ends of the floor. And he just like he found a way to fit in a
He
situation
did.
like today where he was more aggressive off the dribble. And I thought that he did a really nice job of breaking guys down. And even when Murray kind of had to rotate the ball back up to the top, Reggie Jackson rotated the ball back up to the top, Christian would get the ball and he would kind of break his guy down off the dribble a little bit. And he hit a nice pull up late in the game. That was nice. And he got to the rim multiple times. So tremendous stuff from him. Uh, would you rather talk about Christian Brown or Peyton Watson?
Well, I think Christian's important. He's the sixth man. 13, 7, and 7 is nothing to sneeze at. Like, that's a really good game
It's
for
a
somebody.
great game. Yeah.
Right. You know, we've never seen Christian play make like that. So that's incredible that he was able to do it. Now, the shot's not there. The shot won't be there for a while. He didn't play in the preseason at all. But that's the thing, man. Like, okay, let's just be honest, bro. Like, the Nuggets, Murray, Porter, Jokic, we're already so good offensively. It doesn't really matter what you contribute. If you can cut and you can get to the rim, cool, great. We'll have a 120 offensive rating with you on the court kind of thing. So I just think, man, what they're able to do is really important with Christian. But again, Peyton Watson, man, I just think. Let me also say this, Ryan, and I want to hear you with this.
Okay.
Peyton Watson last year and even the last first 3 games here has already shown that he has a much higher ceiling than anything Christian Brown would be able to do as an NBA player and with the Denver Nuggets. He is already a more dynamic defender, not an on-ball defender. If you want to give Christian that's fine. But in terms of just dynamicism, I don't think it's just not a conversation. He's 6'8" with a 7+ foot wingspan. Like, those players just don't you don't just find those. But again, it's not to say that Christian's not going to be an all NBA, all defense worthy player. He could be. But for me, when I look at Peyton has like the physical profile of somebody that's like in DPOY discussions, because you just quite literally can't do anything about him. And even today, bro, we saw him one-on-one versus D'Angelo Russell and all them. We saw him one-on-one this last game versus Derrick Rose and Marcus Smart. Won those matchups. Today, he went from top 100 players, borderline top 100 player to top 12 player. And you know what SGA did against him? Nothing. With 2 blocks. He got one that wasn't registered, but he got one right before a quarter. I think at the end of the third quarter, it might have been that he had on SGA. And then he had one I think in the first half when SGA tried to drive and he swatted it out of bounds, and he jumped over Zeke Naji in order to do it. So that's my thing with what he is, man. He is just so freaking dynamic, man. And I'm really just excited for his future. He's processing the game better. Bro, he even had the rookie year Kobe Bryant dunk where he went baseline, couldn't get on this side, and went reverse.
That was nice. And it's those plays, but he also had a nice pull up on the baseline, like a pull up 2. He had a shot in the corner from 3. And that, I think, those plays right there, because you're selling me already on the defense. There's no question about that. He is a higher ceiling defensive guy than Christian, and he's a higher ceiling player than Christian. And I think that's why they were drafted the way that they were. Christian's the guy that Denver knew that they had to get in for the high floor, and then Peyton's got the high ceiling. But great thing is you get to have them both, and when they're both playing well, it's really hard to complain about either of them, because they have this switchable athletic build that it's exactly what people want. Like, I kept thinking about this from OKC's perspective. Man, they're the team that has all these playmaking wings, and they've been floated as this modern
Even
NBA
Casey
team.
Wallace looked really good today.
He did, and that's great. Denver dwarfed them. They look small against Denver because Denver's got these huge players, and it's up and down the rotation. It was tremendous to watch.
They're not just big.
Insane.
They're all athletic.
Yeah, absolutely. You had a point.
I'm already here. So I've already said this on Twitter, but you've already heard me talk about Peyton Watson before. This isn't new.
Sure.
I think, you know what I think about when I think of Peyton Watson?
What?
I thought about James Harden with the Thunder. But the reason I bring that up is to say not James Harden like this is an MVP level player, but this is a player that the Denver Nuggets are going to have to look at and say, are we willing to pay him what he's worth, or else we trade him for whatever amount of assets? Because that's where Peyton is. Again, I'm trying to tell you, Ryan, those players, if he even meets his floor as a player, how much worse than Jaden McDaniels is he? If he's worse, that's cool. But how much worse? That's still a starting level player in the league. That's what I'm saying. So if he reaches his floor, which is worse than Jaden, let's say he reaches Jaden, or what is like, you know what I mean? Like, then we're having a different conversation. Jaden just got maxed out.
Yeah.
He just got a 5-year deal. So much worse than Jaden. Okay, well that's uh, 5-year 150 guy. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying, man. I just think that I think with what he is, I'm of the mindset that the Nuggets are going to have to make a decision in about 2 years about. I mean, 2 years at this point, right? While he's in his 4th year, about him. That's
Sure.
going to say, look, are we going to pay him and be the most expensive team ever, or are we just going to do whatever? Because Brian, he is that good. You don't find players like that. And again, and it's not just this. You know what does it for me too? You can't always listen to NBA players, but Ryan, listen to how NBA players talk about him. Paul George and Kevin Durant have lauded this dude for what he is. And then also Paul George just came out today in the clip also said really high things about Christian Braun as well. But
Sure.
Peyton just has a different bag, bro. So again, even today, bro, I'm just looking, I'm like, the Nuggets, Bruce Brown, KCP, AG, they all struggled. All of them struggled last year with SGA. Now, to be fair, though, SGA just had a bad game. He'll have a better game next time. And the Nugget team defense is better. But literally, when he went up against Peyton, Peyton is longer and more athletic than he is, and also very intelligent. So, that's what I'm saying, man. It's just like, dude, like it's just a nightmare when he comes on the field. When he's on the court, like it's just like I think the connected length. And even playing the 4, and I said I don't want him to play the 4 when we had this conversation. I don't like him at the 4, but if you're telling me they're switching everything anyway, then it doesn't matter,
Yeah. And so here's my larger point for this, and then we can shift to the next segment. Um, it's going to take a little bit, and I'm still not there when it comes to like, hey, he's got to continue to prove this, because
Mm-hmm.
you don't give a guy 30 plus million a year
Yeah,
off
of course.
of like 3 games. Like he's going to have to
No,
continue to
yeah,
show the growth. And I know that you're not saying that at all, but like more of what this is about is the fact that we can have those dreams. You can
right,
have those discussions at this point and think like, okay, this is the exact kind of guy that you want to play around Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter, everybody. Like it is a tremendous value add. And
right.
look, Calvin Booth deserves a ton of credit, man. Like he said what he said
You got
about
Julian
Bruce
Strawther
Brown.
this year.
He said what he said about Bruce Brown and Bones Highland. That dude is batting 1,000 right
Yeah,
now.
no, that's a fact.
1,000. It's insane. It is
And then
tremendous.
even Julian is the 6'6" wing, who's an incredible scorer and looks the part.
And dude, I mean, I know what the vision is, and it's going to involve some of the current starters maybe not being there in those couple of years, like in those 3 years when you have to pay somebody like a Peyton Watson or a
Well, but
Christian Brown or whatnot.
here's the thing about that though. Just real quick on that. Yeah, I think that used to be true. But I can tell you right now, if that one dude that we're both thinking about keeps doing this, he's not going nowhere. And he's healthy. Oh, he's not going anywhere. There's just no way because there's no replacing that.
Might be AG. Um,
Well, AG, I think the thing is AG is on the second year of a 4-year.
mhm.
And so he's making 22 mil right now. So 2
Yeah,
years from now, when he's 30, do you re-up him,
it's a
for
good question.
whatever?
And
But I think so. I think they will just because he's too big. You don't find
also
wings that are that big.
way
Right.
way out in the future.
That's
And
after
there's
championship
yeah,
number 3 conversations,
let's have a third championship before we even have this discussion. Like it's completely understandable, but like look, this is where you start getting into that Golden State frame of mind where you
Right.
start going light years and you start thinking a little bit too
Right.
much about like, hey, can we have our cake and eat it too?
Right.
No, let's be patient at least a little bit. Let's see what this develops into. But the fact that you can have those questions and can have those discussions, I think is a very, very good sign for the future of this team. They have the best starting lineup in the NBA, and boy, do they have a way better bench than anybody expected. I think that's
Right.
it's tremendous to watch. So,
Right.
tell you what, let's take one more break, everybody. When we come back, we are going to chat about this upcoming week with the Nuggets and just kind of give our general takes for what we can expect from this group going forward. We'll be right back. But first, um, is there a advertisement that I actually want to play? Sure, here we go.
Now that March Madness is finally
Never mind. Let's not play that one. That was a March Madness one. I thought that I had a different one in mind, but that's fine. We are back, everybody. Pickaxe and roll. Weekends with Swipa here. Thank you so much, SwipaCam, for hopping in. Um, let's preview the week. Let's preview the week. Let's also tell Aniela that I need more commercials for us to play in the in the weekends with Swipa and the Pickaxe and Roll playlist. Um, let's talk about this upcoming week because Nuggets are 3-0. We don't know when their first loss is going to come. It'll happen at some point. Nobody has gone 82-0 yet. But hey, who knows? Maybe this is the 74-8 Denver Nuggets. Like we'll have to talk about that and cross that bridge when we come to it. It's going to be crazy. But I do think that this is going to be a fun week for Denver for a number of reasons. Let me go through the games here real quick. I've got them on the bottom of the screen, everybody. Monday versus Utah. Denver's on their first back to back. They come home from OKC and they're going to play tomorrow night. Wednesday, they travel to Minnesota and they will face the Minnesota Timberwolves in game 5 of the season. That'll be an interesting one. Nice little revenge spot, maybe for the Wolves. And I think that that's going to be one that they're going to be up for tremendously for sure. Friday will be versus Dallas. That will be the first in-season tournament game of the season for Denver. And I'm curious to see how the team and how the players and how the league kind of approaches this because there have been a lot of discussions about the in-season tournament and there's been a lot of promotion so far from the national broadcasts on what the hell the in-season tournament is. So we will see what happens there. Although the Nuggets aren't exactly promoting it well with the jerseys they're about to wear for that game. And then they play a back-to-back on that Saturday against Minnesota again. Is that right? Did I type that incorrectly? Oh no, it's Chicago. Why did I type Minnesota? I was wondering, like that doesn't make sense. Let me change this right here. Saturday versus Chicago. I was thinking of a different team from the Midwest. Okay. Nuggets play Utah, Minnesota, Dallas, Chicago. Swipa, your first impressions when you hear that schedule. You're muted, dude.
Oh, sorry. I was
You're
typing. So I'm going to make a little noise.
All good.
Utah, really good. They don't play any defense. Keontae George is special. He went to Baylor. What Baylor player isn't special in the NBA? We've had this discussion before. I think that having Utah plus Minnesota, Dallas, Chicago looks like an absolute train wreck right now. I thought for sure they're going to be at least not top 9 seed. They just look terrible.
They in the preseason when Denver played them, they looked way better. They looked like a way better version of themselves, and that just hasn't really manifested this time. So see what happens there. But they look gross.
I'm hearing a lot of chatter about like DeRozan and Caruso and all this sort of stuff. I'm like, look, I don't know when they're going to do it. Philly fans are asking for Zach LaVine because they're blowing it up anyway. So who knows what's going to happen? But I'll say this: I think that Utah. I think they beat Utah. Beating Minnesota and Minnesota is going to be a lot, I think, because Minnesota, they're 1-1. And if they lose their next game, 1-2, they're going to be really desperate. But I think all these, this is the thing. But this is the funny thing. The Nuggets are better than all these teams. So
they are the champions after a fashion.
And they have the best player out of all these teams. So it's like, are they going to want to lean into it the way they should? And that's really going to be the question. I think the one that I see them actually not showing up and giving their best effort, not their best effort, but the other team actually legitimately being able to like reach a ceiling to beat them, I think might be the Timberwolves. And that's the Wednesday game in Minnesota.
I am watching that Dallas game and I'm watching the way that Luka just played against the Brooklyn Nets and like a team like a guy like Ben Simmons and guy like Mikal Bridges, they're trying to be physical with him and bully him. And he dropped 49 on their heads and made every 3-pointer and just looked unbelievable in that game. Luka looks skinnier and he looks to be in better shape, kind of in the same way that a Jokic went through that transformation early on in his career and has really started to take his health seriously and then blew up immediately. So I think that there's a possibility that Luka just demolishes Denver, but I thought that Shea would play the way that he did. I do think that Luka's a little bit more crafty and foul baiting even more than a guy like Shea. So there is a possibility that somebody like a Peyton Watson, somebody like a Christian Brown, they get off their feet a little bit, and then Luka draws a bunch of free throws in the matchup like that. But I think that the Minnesota game they probably lose, and then that Dallas game is going to be an absolute show. And I'm not sure which direction it goes, but it will be a show for sure.
Well, the only thing I have about Dallas is uh, Lively, Hardaway, and then obviously their regulars that they've had on that roster for years in their big man rotation. And then they got Rashawn Holmes on the roster. They don't have Grant Williams, Josh Green. Yeah, I mean, they're good, but guess what? They're small. They're still going to be small. So if you're telling me all the Nuggets are playing that game, then, that's going to be a situation where they're going to have to rebound really well and close out really well. And they're going to have to keep the Nuggets at one possession because they're already going to be efficient on this one possession. But when they miss, don't give them the rebound. And I think they can obviously win the game. Luka and Kyrie is going to be really good.
Oh, sure.
But
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I want to see them really challenged by a half-court offense, and that's going to be Dallas. So, we'll see what it looks like.
And more of what I'm saying is like, I just think that Dallas could put up 120 or whatever in that kind of
Right.
matchup. And if Denver doesn't put up 120, then they could absolutely lose that game. And look, I think this is a good comment here. We already saw Jokic cook a rookie tonight. Yeah, there is definitely a reason to believe that Derek Lively or Maxi Kleba or any of the other guys that Dallas could actually throw at Joker, probably not going to get a bunch of stops there. So it just wouldn't surprise me if Jokic dominated in that matchup. And I think that like if you tell him that the in-season tournament is a thing that he needs to care about, and he actually does, and he puts out his best effort in a game like that, there's a possibility that he goes for 40, 15, and 15 in a matchup like that against a rookie. So I think
Well,
that
the thing
there's
is, but remember though, this was the game they lost right before the Memphis game. Remember they lost 3 straight last year. I want to say it was like Detroit, Dallas, and maybe the Pelicans. That 38-point game.
I know exactly what it is actually.
No, Hawks.
It was Hawks, Pelicans, Mavericks, but the Mavericks game was a national TV game,
And they
and
doubled Joker every possession.
they did, but they played better. Like Denver
Yeah.
play like you could start to see the signs of them kind of breaking out of what they needed to break out of in that game.
Right.
But the Mavericks just made the shots that they needed to, and that could happen this time around too. So
Right.
it's stuff where you want to give opponents respect because they deserve it, and because a guy like Luca
But
deserves
do you think
respect.
if they double Joker every possession this year, that they would be the same? Like the offense wouldn't just solve itself like throughout at least like, you know, they did
You
it.
just,
Ryan, they literally every single possession double Joker.
mhm. You just gotta like are the Nuggets making 15 threes or are they making 18 threes? Are they
Right.
making 12 threes? Are they making 20 threes? That's
Right.
my big concern there because if Denver was making all of their perimeter shots in that situation, then yeah, the double is going to get Dallas killed. They're going to die. But
But I would almost rather the Nuggets, if they do that, pull Jokic away from the paint and you double at the high post. And then that way you're operating everything going towards the rim.
can't really double at the high post. Like then like you said, the basket underneath opens
Right.
up. AG's
But
getting a
that's what
bunch
I'm
of
saying.
dunks
Like
and
it's just
yeah.
repositioning Joker. That way they can't try to just work on the post and then the rotation.
I think that's fair, and Denver could absolutely do that too. Um, let's talk about back to backs here before we go.
Right.
Denver, obviously, they're on the second night of a back to back tomorrow night against Utah. Do you think that they'll play all of their guys? I kind of
Yeah.
think that they do. I don't think they're in a situation where they're a
No.
team that has to rest.
No. Yeah. There's no reason to. Joker didn't play in the fourth quarter. Murray barely had to play. KCP, Porter. I mean, they're all fine. So I think that, I think they all end up playing, and then I think it's going to be a really fun game tomorrow too.
I have the starting five: Murray at 29, KCP at 30, MPJ at
Right.
25, Gordon at 23, and Jokic
Right.
at 30. So like
Right.
nobody played more than 30 minutes, and I think that that's kind of a good bellwether. Hey, you're going back home. You're going to play in front of the fans. Give the fans what they want, and if you need to rest going forward, then you can't really rest in the Dallas game, but they could probably rest in that Chicago game and still get a win. Just kind of depends who they rest though. So should be fascinating to watch. That's one of the things I'm definitely monitoring though. If you get two back to backs in the span of about 6 days,
Hmm.
that's a tough matchup for anybody. So I'm gonna be watching out for that. Any
Yeah.
final takeaways before we get out of here?
Man, they've just been way more locked in defensively than I think anybody suspected. But I said this before the year started, and I'll say it again. I just think the Nuggets are older, they're more mature, but I just don't know if I don't know if they can actually turn off excellence. Once you reach excellence and you're young and in your prime, I don't know if you can turn it off. So that's kind of where I think they might be at right now.
Well, we will see what happens, but I am very curious how this is going to go for the Nuggets, because I think there is a strong possibility they win way more games than any of us expected. Except maybe you. I think I had them projected at 55 after seeing that opening night win. Maybe it's even higher than that. Who knows? But it's going to be a long season. We'll find out. But I'm excited to see it, dude.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think I had 54, 55, but like, who knows? They might not. If the West is going to be going back and forth, they might not have to win that much. They'll win as much as they need to, and then they'll rest everybody. Same thing as last year.
Everybody, that's going to do it for this episode of Weekends with Swipa. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure to follow SwipaCam at SwipaCam on Twitter, and make sure to follow me at NBA Blackburn. Lots of great stuff from us today, and we're going to do weekends episodes every weekend. Not sure if it's going to be Saturday or Sunday next week. I think it will probably be Saturday, but we'll play that by ear. We'll figure it out. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning into the show. Appreciate all the love and support on the podcast. As always, hit that like button, that subscribe button on the way out. We'll talk to you guys next week.